Hey, Aharon Rabinowitz here for Red Giant Software. In this mini tutorial, we're going to be in like Flynn. And by Flynn, I mean Kevin Flynn from Tron, not the other Flynn, whoever that may be. Even Wikipedia is not sure, so, you know. I was watching the newest trailer for Disney's Tron Legacy yesterday, and in that trailer, which looks awesome by the way, I saw this image of Flynn, or as I like to call him, the Dude, or the Duderino if you're not into brevity. Anyway, the Dude was being viewed on what I think was a giant computer screen, and I really dug the look, so I wanted to recreate that. Now, my first thought was to use Red Giant Software's Holomatrix, and I came up with this. And while it looks cool, and it's in the spirit of the style, it really isn't a match. However, I do get the added benefit of adding cool effects like scrolling lines, and static. But again, while it's cool, not really a match for the final, again, which looks like this. So I took a look back at it again, and on that second glance, it's really just some heavy-handed recoloring and some other effects that can be easily simulated with looks and some basics AE stuff as well. So let's do that. And of course, this is the final result, and this is the Dude. It's looking pretty close, although there are some differences due to the texture of his skin and the way it was lit. But here I have my my image. That I'm going to be working with, and this was taken. I filmed this with just a video camera, and I've got what I did was I put a big light behind me, not a very bright one, and a light that was about a third as bright in front of me. So we got this nice white light behind me. I could have used a white backdrop or a softbox or something to really do this, but this is what I had available to me at the time, and it did the job, so that's good. Anyway, with that done, I ended up with this, and that works for what I want to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in an adjustment layer. So I'll choose Layer, New, Adjustment Layer, and then I'll choose Effect, Magic Bullet, and Looks, and we'll jump in there. And what I'm going to do is grab one of these presets, and I'll grab one of my favorite ones. Berlin is always a good one. When I want cold blue stuff, I always like to start with this one. It's such a great preset. So I'll add that in, and then I'm going to start making some changes. Let's. The first thing is I want to bring out some of the contrast here. So let me just get into my curves here. I'll just grab a film-like curve, and I'll drop it right at the front, and that brings that out a bit more. So we've got a little bit more. The darker areas are darker, the lighter areas are lighter. Looking good. The blue isn't strong enough anymore, so let me strengthen that up just a bit. I want to keep some of those pink skin tones because that's what he had there, but I did want to give it a little bit more blue, and I think that we're at a good place, at least for now. And another thing was I noticed that there was some color separation on the edges of stuff, so what I'll do is I'm going to add some chromatic aberration. And I've covered this tool in another mini tutorial before this, and so you can check that out. But I'll just make some quick changes here. I'll just set this to 3. It brings out the reds and the cyans, and I'll also set the blue and yellow to -3. And it creates some nice color separation, especially on the further out parts of the face. Right in the center we get none of that, but as we move further away, they become a lot stronger in separation. Okay, next thing I want to do is just add in some edge softness. One of the things that I noticed about that image, and I don't know if it was filmed that way or if they just really just added the effects later, was there was a very shallow depth of field. So this area of his face was very much in focus, but everything outside of that was very, very blurred. So let's add in that edge softness here, and we'll just tighten this up a bit. Just like that. Maybe bring that down a tiny bit. Of course, the blur is a bit too strong, so I might just set that down to 2 to bring it down just a little bit. I might want to spread that out a bit more. It's kind of going to be to taste. You'll have to play around. It's going to depend on the footage that you're working with, but this seems to be doing the job. So I think we're good. Oh, and the edges are a bit too light. The image I think he had some kind of texture behind him, or there was something that had creases or whatever it was. I didn't have that, but I would like to add some darkness to the whole thing. So why don't I just bring in a vignette? I'll drop that right in there, We'll spread this out a bit, but I'll tighten the whole thing. And maybe I'll set the vignette's opacity, the strength of it rather, down to something like 35%. So we've got some of it, and you can see the difference. If I turn this off, there's definitely a difference. It gives us a little darker than just the white, and it's looking pretty good. That blue may not be quite where I want it to be, and I can always come back and fix that and make it a bit stronger if I want to. Anyway, I'll click OK. And back in, we're starting to look more like what we should. Here, let me just move the dude above there and take a look. Yeah, we're definitely getting there. Now, it's still a bit too bright, but I'm going to be adding in scan lines, and that is going to make everything a bit darker. Okay, so let's create the lines, and I'll choose Layer, New, Solid, and I'll name the solid Lines, and I'll make it the same size as the composition, and the color black. Perfect. Click OK. Now we've got it, and I'll choose Effect, Transition, Venetian blinds. You can't see that on your screen, but it's at the very bottom of the transition effects, and this creates a Venetian blinds like effect, as you can see. I'm going to set this to 33%, and I'll set the width down to 3, so create some very nice thin looking lines. Now unfortunately this is way too strong in color because it's taking over the whole image and making everything so much darker. So why don't I set the opacity, I'll set it down to 25%, and even that's pretty strong. If you compare it to our picture of the dude, you can barely see them there. So maybe I'll lower this to 15%, and it's better. It's not quite. I mean, his is really subtle, but let me leave this here for now so we have it. If you want to change it in your work and bring it to an even lower opacity, that's cool. I'm going to stick with it as is. And now I notice in the picture of the dude, there's a bunch of the lines kind of curve around the different shapes of his face, and clearly he's a bit older than me, and he's got a lot more of those shapes, so we may not get quite the same effect, but it's looking really interesting, and there's definitely these lines that change their shape as they ride over his face. So we can simulate that with a displacement map. Turn the dude off again, and I'll select my my lines, and I'll choose Effect, Distort, and Displacement Map. I won't get too into what a displacement map is, but you can use the image that you can use an image that you choose to displace the pixels, bend them, and warp them based on the values of brightness or color that the image you're selecting has. So in this case, I will tell it to use the bottom of the picture of me for displacement, and you can already see that there's definitely some bending going on based on the lightness of the image. So the first thing I'm going to do is just set the use for horizontal to luminance, and I'll bring the maximum horizontal displacement up to 7, which definitely makes it bend a bit more. You can see that it's bending around the shapes of my face, and you can go a little higher if that's what you want to do, but I think we're okay for now. I'll set the maximum vertical displacement to 0 because I don't really care about displacing it vertically, and just to avoid this kind of issue where things are pushed one way or the other off the side of the screen, I'll turn wrap pixels around on, and that takes the pixels that were moved off the side of the screen here and brings them back to there. And I can try to mess around a little further with this if I want to. I can bring the maximum horizontal displacement up to 10, but I don't think it's really necessary. I'll bring it back to 7. It looks okay. The one thing is I do want to move this below Magic Bullet looks, and that looks a lot more subtle, and that definitely makes the lines look a lot more like they're a part of the whole image. Plus, they get the faded look of our fake shallow depth of field that we had before. And if you take a look at the dude, also you can see the lines, like he gets really shallow depth of field. You don't see the lines here anymore. So that's pretty much what we're going for. The last thing is, since my face doesn't quite have that craggly look that the dude has, I can sort of, I don't want to say enhance, definitely the wrong word, but I can bring that out a bit more. And with the image selected, I'll choose Effect, Blur and Sharpen, and we'll go with the Unsharp Mask. And I'll bring the amount up to 200, and you can see I definitely have a lot more of my skin and all my wow, I need to see a dermatologist immediately. Anyway, there you go. There are my skin flaws right out there in the open. And if we take a look and we compare this to the dude, It's looking pretty good. I may not have had the light far enough below me when I filmed, and like I said, plus he's got a bit more wrinkles, and the shape of his face also comes into play there. But you can see that with the light below, you get darker and brighter areas, and this looks pretty good. Although, by the way, if I feel like going back in and changing the blues a bit to bring out some more of the blue in the skin, it's really no big deal. I'll just jump into my adjustment layer with Magic Bullet Looks, and inside I'll select my warm cool tool here, and I'll just drive this a little more into the blues, just a tiny bit, give it a little more of a blue, and I'll click OK, and we get that more of a blue look. And if I hit Control Z to undo, you can see there's definitely a difference. It's a bit more pink, and I'll just choose to redo change effect value, so it brings in some more of the blues. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this tip. You can learn more about the power of Magic Bullet Looks at redgiantsoftware.com, and you can also download a free trial there as well. Once again, I'm Aharon Rabinowitz for Red Giant Software. See you next time.